When my daughter-in-law looked me in the eyes and said, "Your time is over, Mom," I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I just smiled back as when betrayal walks into your home wearing your son's last name. You don't fight it with anger, you fight it with patience. You let them believe they've won while you quietly build the lesson they'll never forget. She thought she ended my chapter that day, what she didn't. No, was that I'm the one who wrote the book. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you raised with love, stay till the end, because this story isn't about revenge, it's about reclaiming respect. Bear, we begin hit like if you believe a mother's silence is never weakness, and subscribe for more stories where karma finds its way home. When Sarah first entered my home, I thank God she was soft-spoken, polite, and made my son happier than I'd ever seen him. She called me Mom with warmth that felt real. For a moment, I thought I had found the daughter I never had, but sweetness is a mask, and masks eventually slip. It started subtly, a sarcastic laugh here, a sigh there. I'd offer advice, and she would roll her eyes when my son wasn't looking. And soon her whispers began to shape his thoughts here. Mom doesn't let you breathe. She doesn't trust us to handle our own life. She wants to control everything. And my son, my only son, started pulling away. The dinners grew quieter, the phone calls shorter, until one night he said, Mom, maybe it's time you moved out. You've done enough. You deserve peace, peace." That word stabbed deeper than any insult could. Because when your child calls abandonment peace, he realized manipulation has already won. But what Sarah didn't know was that every goodbye she forced out of me was another seed of karma I was planting quietly. A few weeks later, she came to visit again. This time she wore fake guilt instead of makeup. "Mom, I feel so bad for how things went. You deserve help with your apartment. Let me handle the paperwork for you. It's the least I can." Though her voice was sugar, her eyes sharp enough to cut glass. But I wasn't angry. Anger gives them power. I smiled and poured her tea back. As you don't confront snakes, you let them slither until they show you where they hide their venom. She laughed, pretending to care, but every word she said smelled like greed. She didn't want to help me manage the apartment. She wanted to own it. That day I decided not to argue, not to resist. I simply said, "Yes, my dear, let's do what's best for everyone," which shouldn't realize he wasn't surrendering. I was documenting her every move. Early one morning, I went to meet my lawyer. No one knew, no one suspected. I carried every ounce of heartbreak in silence and turned it into strategize. Apartment, the one I worked 30 years for, would now belong to a trust fund in my grandson's name. He was only a child, but one day had understand. Not my son, not his wife, just the innocent bloodline untouched by greed. Weeks later, Sarah came again, smiling like a cat that caught its prey. "Mom, let's finalize the papers today," she said. "I'll make sure you don't have to worry about anything anymore." I looked at her calm still and said, "Of course, my dear, let's make it official." Thought she was winning, but the real papers were already signed and sealed, far away from her reach. Leaving, she whispered, "Don't worry, Mom, your time is over." Peacefully looked her in the eyes and smiled. "Oh, darling, my time may be over, but yours isn't even begun." She laughed, but laughter doesn't echo long when it's built on lies. Months later, they called the lawyer, excited, confident, ready to transfer ownership. They believed the property was already theirs. The lawyer opened the file, cleared his throat, and said, "Afraid that won't be possible. The property isn't under your names. It's owned by a trust created by your mother. And one day it will belong to your son." The room went silent. You could almost hear her pride shatter. My son's face turned pale, and in that moment, the truth stripped away every lie they had ever built. Sarah's smile melted, and my son finally saw what I had seen months ago, that love can be turned into a weapon in the wrong hands. He didn't gloat. I didn't even speak. I simply stood up and said, "Love built this home. Greed Destroyed your sin. As I walked out, I realized sometimes revenge isn't. Roar, it just signs its name in silence. I didn't do it to hurt them. I did it to protect what love truly means, because a mother can forgive, but she should never forget. You see, I learned something powerful. When people betray, you don't fight them with rage. Fight them with calmness that confuses their soul, because silence makes them face themselves, and that's the deepest punishment of all. Today, my son calls again. He visits. Quietly, he's rebuilding what she broke, and he's forgiven him, not because he deserves it, but because I deserve peace. Said your time is over, but what shouldn't know was that a mother's time never ends, it only evolves. In the end, I realized revenge was never about hurting them. It was about proving that I could rise without them. They tried to take my home, but I built something bigger, my peace, my strength, my legacy. Wanted me silent, so I gave them silence, but not the kind that fades. The kind that echoes, the kind that teaches best. When a mother is betrayed, she doesn't crumble, she transforms her. Silence becomes her weapon, her patience becomes her strategy, and her dignity becomes her revenge. So to every mother listening to this, remember, you don't need to shout for justice, you just need to keep walking, because every step you take in grace is a step that leaves karma behind. You end to those who betrayed love for greed. Look closely, the woman you tried to erase is the reason your story fell apart. She said your time is over, but what shouldn't know is that I didn't end when they stopped loving me. I end when karma finishes the story. Tell me in the comments, what would you do if someone tried to take everything you built? Like this video if you believe no mother deserves betrayal. Subscribe for more stories where silence becomes justice. Share this story with someone who needs to remember you can't erase a woman who wrote her story in strength.